I'm just a millennial, and everywhere I go is in the back seat of an Uber. Paid on internets, Reddit said it best, oh, with emojis. There will come a day when student debts bury me. What will they tweet about me? When selfies send, I know they'll say, just a millennial.
Millennial.
Yoga starts without me, 'cause I ain't got no money, no money. Everybody borrow some money, 'cause I don't wanna live with mommy. But maybe she'll fold my laundry, fold my laundry. Won't some nice startup come and hire me because I got degrees? Stay tuned, we got a great show for you. Hello and welcome to Medill Newsmakers, What in the World edition. I'm Sean Froelich. Today we'll learn about the illustrious and lovable millennial. Who is this strange but ever-present creature? Are you afraid one of your friends might be a millennial? I'm just kidding. We're going to explore the subject with a powerhouse panel, a visit to a Chicago kitchen, and finally, a performance for one of Chicago's hottest young bands, Marrow. For a quick lesson on this generation, our news elves did some research and offer us this quick shakedown. Most millennials are currently in their 20s and generally being young and beautiful. Guess that excludes me. They are the largest generation at 75 million and the most racially diverse population in the US. Sorry, baby boomers, you had your moment. They've also earned the most college degrees and the most college debt, which is sitting at a nifty 1.2 trillion right now, which is close to this show's budget, actually. Millennials are also less likely to buy homes, get married, or affiliate with political parties and religions. This generation may be tougher to crack than my will to host panel discussions. Speaking of panel discussions, let's hear from some millennials and those who research them so that we may gain a meatier and grass-fed and GMO-free understanding of them. On our panel today, we have a real live millennial, Charlie Corwin, who is working on earning his PhD in urban planning, and yes, he does not have money. Next, we are proud to have with us Professor Don Schultz, who has a deep understanding of marketing. And finally, we have Stephanie Edgerly, who teaches audience insight here at Northwestern University. Thanks for being here, everyone.
Thank you.
So, Charlie, let's start off with you because you are the representative of the millennial generation, all 75 million of them. So as we saw in the graphic, they are the most educated generation in our history. They're also the most financially strained. So what do you think is the impact of this?
I think the impact is what you're seeing is a bunch of students graduating and not having a place to go. So for those that are graduating, they have a tremendous amount of debt, so they're unable to find jobs, and the jobs that they do find ended up being part-time and often very flexible. So you have multiple part-time jobs, which is actually why I'm wearing this outfit right now. This is my summer job. I collect food scraps. Don't worry, they're in buckets and have a lid on them, so I don't have to actually touch the food scraps. But what happens is now you don't have students coming out and marrying or buying houses or buying cars or really investing in the sectors that were really strong before. But what you do have is a very creative entrepreneurial class. So it does make it hard to predict what that outcome will be in the future.
Well, we'll make sure to get you fed later, Charlie.
Yes.
Now, he said the outlook is very different for students once they graduate, and you two deal with students all the time. Can you speak to that at all, how the outlook is different at post-graduation?
You want to start with me?
Sure.
Okay. Well, I think the issue is very clear. What we have is a very, very different economy than we've historically had in the past. What we're moving toward is a digital communication system. We're going to technologize everything. We're going to outsource most of the things that are needed. And as a result, there's just simply not jobs, traditional jobs, for lots of people when they graduate from college. And that's one of the biggest issues. And as technology expands and extends, it's going to get even worse. Now, part of the problem is that creates a bifurcation in the whole society, and that is we have all the millennials, which you see on TV and you're talking about, and what we're finding is there's a big undercurrent, which you see in places like Ferguson and Baltimore, which are radically different from the millennials that we all talk about. So I think you really need to define what you're talking about. You're talking about college-educated students who have graduated and are out seeking a technology or a professional position. We've got a lot of people in this economy and in this society who are simply looking for a way to find a job.
Mm-hmm. And as the infographic said, and as you mentioned, this is the most diverse population that we've seen in our nation's history. What are some of the shortcomings that you've seen from the marketing end of things to meet this very different culture?
Well, I think the big issue is we have raised an entire group of people who have lived risk-free. They have no risks. If they can't find a job, they go back and live with their parents. If they have a job and they lose it, they get unemployment. There's no concern, no risk in the marketplace. All the products they buy are safe. All the things that they do, the police are supposed to protect them. They live in a kind of a balloon, in a bubble that never breaks out. So I think what we've created is a whole genre of people who are growing up in risk-free environments and they don't know how to deal with it. Now all of a sudden they have to take a risk. Mm-hmm. That's not in their makeup, that's not in their history, that's not in their background. How do you get them to do that?
And I think to add to that, even when you do have college debt like I have, you have a lot of packages that are able to defer and to push back those debts. So you can either go back to school or keep doing these part-time jobs that are never going to pay off the thousands and thousands of dollars of debt, but you have packages, governmental packages that you can sort of push back those debts. So like you're saying, less and less risk.
What do you make of the risk-free kind of outlook?
I would actually push on that a little bit, and I think that there's a body of literature that argues that we're moving to a very risk society, in that people that are coming of age right now have been told to be very concerned and skeptical and afraid of people they don't know, of news organizations, of their neighbors, and I think that has had some unfortunate effects on millennials also. Millennials report the lowest amount of social and community trust among any other cohort. And I think a lot of that has to do with a kind of worry because they've been told, don't make friends with strangers. They've moved a lot. They wind up not knowing their neighbors. They feel less integrated into communities. And as a result, you see some of these fabrics that have been sewn into community participation, political participation, start to erode.
Mm-hmm. Don, have you seen this drop in trust?
Well, I think there's been a big drop in trust. I was reflecting this morning, just digress for a moment. I was reflecting this morning. My father grew up in the Depression. I was born during the Depression. If you lost your job in the Depression, you didn't get support, you didn't get help, you didn't get anything. You went out on the street and tried to sell apples, or you starved. I grew up in Oklahoma in the middle of the Dust Bowl. There was huge risk there, but no one went and looked for help. No one went and said, somebody come help me, somebody come take care of me. My father couldn't go home because there weren't any jobs on the farm where he grew up. So when I think about that, that's only one generation back. We have radically changed our society. We've radically changed the whole system we live in, and I don't think we're really prepared to deal with the situation as it exists today.
Do you feel unprepared, Charlie?
I feel not as secure as the previous generations, but I do think that there are potentially more options as far as technology goes. You have websites like where you can do part-time service jobs like clean people's houses and walk people's dogs. There's a lot more options, but they're not going to pay the bill in the long run. And it will be really hard to support families by walking dogs, by doing delivery services or these other cleaning services. So I am a little bit nervous and scared for myself and for my generation as far as sort of the outlook of this.
Is there any guidance that you offer students when they're going out into the job market?
I try to assess how serious students are about needing to take a job, right? Do you, for financial reasons, need to take any job, or are you looking for a specific job? And I tend to find a big disconnect between students that I write letters of recommendation for or recommend them for certain jobs, and then they wind up not taking them because they say, oh, well, actually, I think I'll just move home and wait a while. I said, well, that's a difference then. I guess you didn't need to take a job, right? Like you're looking for, I think there's this dangerous narrative out there. You're looking for the job that is your passion. And I think there's this narrative of if you find a job that you love, you never work a day in your life. And I don't think that that is true for everyone. I think it gets to be true for some people, and that's wonderful. But I do think there's a segment of people who say, actually, I work, and it provides me a standard of living, and it allows me to do the things that I am passionate about and I do love. But I don't identify greatly with the job that I'm being paid to do. And I think that sentiment was much more shared in prior generations, but we've kind of fed into this like, you can do whatever you want and you can find a job that you're passionate about. And I think that that puts a lot of pressure on students when they start approaching the door of graduation to find this job that excites them and resonates with them and is part of their identity, when I think in prior generations they were thinking, you know, is this going to support me to be able to live, and not so much asking those profound, deep, self-actualizing questions.
Don, can you speak to how it was different in past generations about the narrative of finding the job that you love?
Actually, I can speak for many generations, given my age. But I think the thing that Stephanie just brought up is we have a very unique situation at Northwestern and in most universities. What we're raising is a group of people who essentially believe they are looking for self-fulfillment. And so what they want to do is they don't really want to work for anyone. What they want to do is they all want to become entrepreneurs. And entrepreneurs are really interesting because they use other people's money. You don't have to be you don't have to have any money to be an entrepreneur. You just go out and you find an angel, get them to fund you and get started, and then you make a huge success. And if you fail, there's no loss. It's not my money that was lost, it's their money that was lost. So I go do something else. So again, I think we've taken all the risk out of this. We've taken all the risk out of going out and trying, of finding a job. We've taken the risk out of, well, if you don't like that job, there's always go do something else, or you can always go home. So I think part of the issue here is we've built a whole generation of coddled students with helicopter mothers who essentially will take care of them no matter what happens. And I have had innumerable calls from parents saying, you don't understand my child. And I said, no, I don't understand your child, and I don't think you do either. And that's part of the issue, because they want to take care of them. They want a mother. They want to hover over them all the time. And at some point, you have to let them go.
Mm-hmm.
Don, do you think that's a kind of interaction with social class also? So you're dealing with a socioeconomic status meets young people?
Actually, no, I don't think it is, because we have a large number of students from overseas, and the parents are the same there that they are here. They come and say, you know, we work really hard and we spend almost all our money to send our child here to your school, therefore you can't let them fail. Because it would be a reflection on us, not on them, but on us. And so I think there's a lot of this, you must succeed. And the pressure on these young people is really incredible, just really incredible, that you have to succeed.
Well, thank you, everyone. This is a fast-paced culture, after all, so we have to keep moving. But thank you all for joining us. There was a lot to chew on there, and everyone brought their different perspectives, so thanks a lot. That's all the time we have from the panel. After the break, find out about the dietary developments from the Millennial. But first, a quick factoid. According to Brookings Institute, only 19% of millennials agreed with the statement, most people can be trusted. This compares to 31% of Gen Xers, who were the ones born between the 60s and 70s, 37% of the silent generation, those born during the Depression and World War II, and 40% of the boomers, who were born after World War II. You know, on second thought, I don't know if I believe our viewers will stick around after the break. Unless they want to see our cool food segment, stick around.
At Northwestern, we're wildcats in every way.
Cheer you all the go. Go you Northwestern, fight for victory, sweet victory, spread for the fame of our fair name, and go Northwestern, win that game. Go Cats!
Why hang around waiting for opportunity to knock when instead you can track opportunity down and knock on its door? You might ask, what's the best way to identify where opportunity lives? Here's a hint. Its door is colored purple. Northwestern University. Opportunity awaits your knock.
Why spend your entire life looking for some on-ramp to the road to opportunity when there's already a well-traveled path? So you may be wondering, what does that path look like? Is it paved with gold? Well, here's a hint. It's actually paved with purple. Northwestern University. Your road starts here.
Hey, you stuck around. I now have a special treat for you. Our special correspondent, Sean Froelich, wait, I thought that was me, is learning how millennials are experiencing an evolution in taste. Don't try and lick the screen now. I know you probably won't. So, what are you going to spoon feed us with today, Sean? Thanks, Sean. I'm glad you remembered me. You haven't been returning my phone calls or emails. Are you coming to my uncle's christening in a couple weeks? Needs to know how many entrees to order. And speaking of entrees, I'm here at Oak and Char, and I'm with the executive chef,
Hi,
David.
My name's David.
And so, David, tell us a little bit about Oak and Char.
Well, Oak and Char is a Midwestern American restaurant that we take a lot of global influences. We use a lot of local flavors and local farms to incorporate into our technique and just put out some great food.
So the millennial generation, they are the most ethnically diverse generation. So do you think it makes sense, there's some correlation there between the dishes that you select?
Yeah, that there's actually a lot of basis. We are such an ever-expanding culture. We learn a lot from every other ethnicity. So we take in a lot of diversity and put it into our food.
And another thing about millennials, they eat out more than any other generation at a rate of 53%, which is 10% higher than any other generation. So what do you make of that?
I just think they don't know how to cook. They just don't know how to cook, and they don't have the time to. So they love to eat out.
And they also tend to not eat the traditional meals like dinner, breakfast, lunch. There's terms out there like slunch or brinner or linner. Have you ever slunched?
No, I've never slunched before. I think that has to do with our ever-expanding palate and just our timetables. Yeah.
Okay. Let's get cooking.
Cookie, can I have one of my spoons?
Chef David points to a paradox in modern kitchens. Millennials both expect global dishes with local ingredients. Dining has also grown into a group activity. Servers have noticed that social media has pushed the industry to evolve, and evolve fast.
I wouldn't say it's changed in a better or worse way. I think it's changed in a more kind of seen and be seen kind of thing. I think the millennials are really almost a one-upper generation.
Let's not forget about Chef David.
I'm not making a lot of eggs, but something pretty.
I can smell him cooking breakfast.
So we like our eggs a little runny. So you have to move it around a lot when it forms curds. A little sour cream, a little bit of creme fraiche. It adds that creaminess, and then we're done. So now we just plate up.
Yeah, I'm gonna come out of my shell because that looks excellent.
So the soft scramble is finished. Most of the ingredients are local. Another big plus for the millennial eater. So let's give it a shot. I gotta say, that tastes really healthy, Dr. Chef David. He's a doctor of food. What's the difference? So, healthy, according to the millennial, this is based on market research. They said healthy means natural and organic.
Yes.
But what do those words mean?
Natural and organic just means, for us, things that haven't been played around with much. Like there's no chemical additives. There hasn't been any like GMOs in it. We get most of our produce from local farms that are within like 200-mile radius of us. So I mean, it's pretty much all organic and healthy. I don't know. I wouldn't say all of our food is healthy, but we make it really good.
So millennials were graded on how healthy they think they eat, like, you know, based on the A to F scale. So what do you think the average was?
I think perception-wise is B+. I think reality is probably a C or D.
So most millennials said a C+. So what do you think of that?
I think that's pretty true. From everybody that I know, and just the generation itself.
It's a big trend, and it's all focused around health, and a lot of it with the millennials is a lot of press.
Press and facts. Millennials are hungry for the truth, and I'm hungry for something a little sweet. Sorry, people, I got to peel. Wow, riveting stuff. Someone should sign this guy to a contract. I think he's got a future in this business. Next up, the band Marrow takes the stage. But first, let's look at another factoid. Here we are. 87% of millennials disagreed with the statement that money is the best measure of success, compared to about 78% of the total population. You know, I always say that a winning personality is the best measure of success. Hear that, Ma? Well, maybe Ma will hear Marrow play after the break. And you too. Stick around.
At Northwestern, we're wildcats in every way.
Cheer you all to go. Go you Northwestern, fight for victory, sweet victory, spread for the fame of our fair name, and go Northwestern, win that game. Go Cats!
Why hang around waiting for opportunity to knock when instead you can track opportunity down and knock on its door? You might ask, what's the best way to identify where opportunity lives? Here's a hint. Its door is colored purple. Northwestern University. Opportunity awaits your knock.
Why spend your entire life looking for some on-ramp to the road to opportunity when there's already a well-traveled path? So you may be wondering, what does that path look like? Is it paved with gold? Well, here's a hint. it's actually paved with purple. Northwestern University. Your road starts here.
Ladies and gentlemen, there is great opportunity for the millennial to make progress in the world. And we can't do a show on the millennial generation without exfoliating our pores with the sounds of the millennial. You can hear this Chicago band on their new album, The Gold Standard. It comes out September 4th. Here's Mother of Maladies from Marrow. Wow, that's awesome. I can feel it. Is that vintage?
Not exactly.
Well, can you introduce yourself to the audience so they know who you are?
This is Marrow. I'm Macy Stewart from Marrow.
And
Liam Cunningham, Lane Beckstrom. Matt Carroll.
Liam Kazar.
And how many pedals do we have over here?
I think it's 14.
Do you guys give lessons?
I do.
You give lessons. Okay, lessons over here. So that was awesome, and that's all we have for the show. I want to thank all of our special guests. Special thanks to Kyle King and the Igloo and Pilsen. And, stay millennial and keep on being curious. That's all we have. Have a great day.